Breakfast with Bob.
Welcome, everybody. This is Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are brought to you by the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, Bellow Fix, Normatec, Form Swim Goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. We just sent out 3,921 grants, totaling $5.9 million to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest, just one of the greatest athletes on the planet. She is the Olympic gold medalist in triathlon from 2016. At one point, she won 13 WTS races in a row. The great Gwen Jorgensen joins us. Gwen, how are you?
Yeah, considering everything that's going on, I guess I'm okay.
And I love your backdrop. You've got a little trail running back there, and you're working with some kids right now, a little virtual camp.
That's right. Yep. There's a virtual camp going on with Bowerman Track Club, which I run with, and so it's for athletes in high school. And one of our goals this week was to create a virtual background, and so this is the one I picked. It's actually a picture that Talbot Cox made or took of us via drone in Mammoth Lake, so you can kind of see us. If you look on the trail, you see a bunch of little people running.
So it's funny because people are like, okay, Gwen's going to try to make her third Olympic team, and this is in a second sport. If someone told you back in 08, 09 that you were going to be an Olympian in any sport, what would you have said?
Yeah, I would have said they were crazy. I tried to make it in swimming when I was super young, and I wasn't making national teams. I wasn't making junior national teams, and so I kind of just realized this sport was a passion. It wasn't going to be a path of mine. And so, even in college, I remember distinctly thinking I had my 5K time, and I remember I was debating if I could go pro as a runner. And I thought, well, there's no way I could ever go faster than 15:40. That, in my head, for some reason, I thought I could never go faster than that in a 5K. And I've smashed that now. But it's just funny to go back and to think of those thoughts I had. And, I think it made me realize that I've needed people to believe in me and support me even when maybe I'm doubtful. And so it's allowed me to then go back and invest in my community and invest in people that I believe in. And that's why I do things like this youth camp and get involved with youth athletes, because I've realized I needed that to find my love of sport and to be able to live this lifestyle.
So you're going through you're at Wisconsin, you swam and you ran there, and then you get your CPA, you've got a job with Ernst & Young, your life path is pretty set. Then Barb Lindquist, I think, from USA Triathlon reaches out and says, hey, you've got a good swim run background, let's teach you to ride a bike and you can become an Olympian. What was your first thought when Barb approached you?
Yeah, I said exactly kind of what I just said. I said, there's no way. I tried to do that when I was younger and I'm not a good enough athlete. I said, I don't want to be living at my parents' house. I'm a strong, independent woman and I want to be able to support myself financially. And there's no way I can do this. I've never even ridden a road bike before. This is impossible. And bless Barb's heart, because she didn't give up on me. And she was actually probably the most meaningful mentor I've ever had. She called me once a week for, I would say, almost a year. And she didn't, every once in a while she'd push triathlon, but more so she would just be checking in. How are you doing? What are you doing? How's school going? How's work going? And she was just super patient and nice and taught me a lot of life lessons. And eventually she said, well, it sounds like you're still working out and, you're still swimming and biking or still swimming and running. So why don't you just try biking and you can continue to work at Ernst & Young and just kind of do this on the side, just as your workout that you do. And that's kind of how she convinced me to give triathlon a shot.
Well, and a good buddy of mine, Tom Schuler, back in Wisconsin was telling me, hey, this girl Gwen is starting to ride and it's going to be a project. She's falling over a little bit at the stoplights. The clipping in part has not been very good so far. And I've brought my, one of the cyclists I'm working with, this guy, Patrick Lemieux, to help out a little bit. Talk a little about when you first got on the bike and started trying to train on it. How frustrating was that?
Yeah, I mean that was frustrating to when you're falling over at stoplights. It's you don't really get injured usually because it's a very slow fall. You just kind of are like, oh no, I'm tipping over, and you can't unclip, and yeah, that was super frustrating. But yeah, I was thankful that I had people like Tom Schuler who invested in me, and he went out on group rides with me all the time, was helping me out. And like you said, there was one group ride. It was a Wednesday night ride that I did every week. I got dropped every week, never could make it with the pack to the finish line. And Pat Lemieux was on that ride, and Tom was like, "Hey, Pat, here's Gwen. She's learning to ride a bike. Could you just help her out?" And so Pat, pulled me back up to the pack a few times, and I ended up finishing that ride with everyone. And at the end of it, Pat asked me out to dinner, and kind of the rest is history. Yeah, we're married now and have a kid. So yeah, it was, I'm very thankful for Tom, not only for investing time in me and helping me become the triathlete I was able to become, but also introducing me to Patrick.
So when did you feel that you could be good at this? Because really, when you look at the progression, all of a sudden you're getting into it in 2010, falling over stoplights. By 2012, you're on the Olympic team. I mean, was there one race between 2010 and 11 where all of a sudden you're going, okay, maybe Barb knows something here. Maybe I can be good at this.
Yeah, when I first thought, Barb knew what she was talking about was probably the test event in London a year out where I qualified, got second. It was the highest place, I think, American finish ever. But at that same time, I still don't think I was totally believing in myself. I knew I was good enough to make the Olympic team, but there was a lot of chatter, a lot of people saying she only made this team because it was a running race, and she can't ride a bike, and all these things. So I think, for me, actually, the race that is probably the most meaningful to me and proved to me that I could do it all was quite a few years later, after the Olympics, I guess. Maybe it was 2013. It was in Stockholm, and everyone said it was a horrible course for me. There was cobblestones. It was a really hilly, hard technical bike course. And I remember I was top 5 out of the water of the swim. So I had an awesome swim, stuck in it on the bike, was great on the bike, and had an amazing run. And after that race, I really realized, what, I am a true triathlete. I had all these people saying I wasn't necessarily a true triathlete. And so that was kind of the race that I felt like I really proved to myself that I am the whole package and can do swim, bike, and run.
So at that first Olympics, flat tire, 38th place, whatever. But from that, I'm sure you came out of it going, okay, now I know what this is like. And 2016 is Rio, and that's my goal. And that's my one focus, is getting to Rio and winning the gold.
Yeah. I mean, London taught me a ton, and I think I'm actually fortunate in a way that I got that flat tire. I finished that race just with this huge hole, I feel like, in my heart and my mind of, I know I can do better. And it made me search out what am I missing? And I looked at the top 3 girls, what are they doing on a daily basis that I'm not? What do I need to do to win gold? And I realized I needed to be in this daily training environment. I was currently leading up to 2012, I just had an online coach. I was, a few days a week riding with Tom Schuler. But other than that, I was swimming with a master's group, running on my own. So I looked into different daily training environments and found Jamie Turner. And I am a Midwest girl. I didn't want to leave home, and I knew that if I joined his group, I'd have to be gone for 8 months of the year. And I remember Patrick and I were very new in our relationship, and he was kind of like, I'll move to Spain and Europe with you. He was a professional cyclist. He's like, that sounds great for training for me. So, he moved over with me, and I started in a daily performance environment. And I feel like that just changed me completely. Me being able to train with my competitors every single day pushed me, taught me, what I need to be doing to be at that level.
What I love too, I read somewhere where the other kids you were training with, because you're a little older than them. They're like, we're calling you grandma.
Yes. I feel like in sport, even now I'm the oldest on my Bowerman team. So now that Shalane has retired, so yeah, I'm always feel like I'm on the older end, and I think that's it's a good thing though. And when I work with athletes at a young age, I like it as well, because it's nice to be able to say, like, I didn't specify in these sports growing up, and I think it is good to be well-rounded and to be able to have that mental energy later on in life to still have this will and drive to want to be good in sport.
So 2014, 2015, 13 consecutive wins. When you get on a roll like that, did it almost become, was there more pressure every time you'd win? And it's like, okay, now we're expecting Gwen to win every single time. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, I got that question a lot, and I think the more races I won, the questions weren't, is X, Y, or Z person going to perform? It was, when's Gwen's winning streak going to end? And for me, that's something I realized I didn't think about it, and two, I didn't want to think about it. I can't control what other people do, and I can only go into the races and control me. And so, I went into the races just with the process and technique-based goals that I go into with races, and I knew that I just needed to execute on what I can, and that's all you can do. So yeah, I think the only time it was a little weird was I did the Island House race, and I remember I finished that race. It was on a TT bike. I hadn't really felt like I was training properly, and I remember I won that one, and I was like, how? Like, what just happened? Like, that was probably the only one where I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't lose or something. But yeah, I lost going into the Olympics a few races. I think I got like a second and a third. And, for me, having that mentality of not caring about the winning streak and more just focusing on executing my technique and processes, I knew that I was still headed in the right direction going into the Olympic Games.
What's fascinating to me is when you're talking non-drafting, we've seen people have long winning streaks before. But the thing with a draft legal race, it's such a crapshoot, right? It's because you're in close proximity with each other. It's an open road. It's when somebody goes off the front back in the day in a non-draft race, they're by themselves. Yeah. You're never by yourself, right? You're always with that group. So anything can happen, which makes that, to me, that winning streak unbelievable. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. Winning 13 in a row like that is pretty special.
Yeah, and I do. Like you said, it is like, that's probably, I think what you were getting at was, you could crash. It could be, someone else somebody could do something in front of you and it would ruin your race. And that's actually like what I hated about this sport was not having control over that. Your race could be totally ruined by somebody crashing in front of you or by a flat tire and having no control over that. So, but yeah, a lot of, it's also, learning the skills and learning who do you ride behind and where do you ride in the pack. And you can mitigate a lot of those chances of something going wrong. And I feel like Patrick and Jamie really prepared me in those situations to be able to mitigate those and increase my likelihood of just making the race come down to my engine.
When you head into Rio, and if people thought before that, okay, Gwen's this great runner, and yeah, she's an okay cyclist. Rio is a cyclist course, right? Rio, big climb, pretty scary downhills, right? Yes. And that's where you're going to go and it's an ocean swim too, which is normally you guys are jumping off a pontoon. This is a little different gig. So going into how much preparation? Because I remember, I think you were doing some stuff with Red Bull where you were on a motorcycle and basically simulating those downhills so you knew the lines. Talk a little bit about how you prepared specifically for that race.
Yeah, I did a ton of preparation. Training wise, the beginning of that year, 2016, we normally would do, leading up into every WTS that we did, we'd do specific training for that WTS. But that whole year, we didn't train for any WTS specifically. We just trained for Rio. So, starting in January, we were doing the hills we needed, mimicking the hills. You know, I think it was like 3 minutes and then a little bit of a flat and then another like 2 minutes super steep. And so we were doing that for efforts every single week. And so my body just got in tune with what it needed to do. And then on the mental side, yeah, I went to a camp. I remember Tim Johnson was there, cyclocross athlete, and he was teaching me just basic skills on my bike that I was still scared of, you know, pushing me over while I was on my bike, shouldering me and trying to just make me comfortable with my bike and my skills on the bike. I was on the back of a motorcycle. We were going down hills at speed, so I could see like you can do these corners at X speed and you can handle it and it's okay. And then once I got on my bike and went down the hill, I realized, oh, this feels like slow compared to that. I also I had like a virtual reality where I wore it and it was the bike course. And so I was able to see the bike course every night and, you know, just watching my visualization. So I did a ton of specific work for that. And, you know, I look back at some of the pictures actually from the Rio race, and there's this one that I'm like, oh my goodness, I must have been so confident or something. Everyone is on the bike and they're just kind of like suffering, or they look like their faces are tired. And I just have this huge grin. Like, I just look like I'm taking a photo shoot or something. Like I have this huge smile and I'm like, wow, like it was just interesting. I think, you know, during that race, I got on the bike and I remember a few people, we knew going into that race, everyone was going to try to break away. You know, Flora Duffy, Nicola Spierig, like we knew these athletes, they're strong cyclists and that they were going to try to break away. And I just remember they tried a few times and I'm pretty sure I was smiling because I was just like, I know I got this. Like, what's going on?
So, you were so prepared. You were so prepared. So then, and you hadn't raced Nicola Spierig since 2012 Olympics, right? And
that's right.
She had crashed, had a broken hand, all that type of stuff. But so now you're racing her. She's a defending champion for Olympic gold, and you guys are in the run. And basically, there's a stretch into the wind, and you're leading, and she's not wanting to share at that point, right? You guys, it's not often in an Olympic race you see people talking to each other. But there was a little bit of a dialogue, sort of like, no, you take the lead. No, I think you should lead for a while.
Yep. Yeah. You know, we hadn't raced each other and I didn't really know her in races. And so I had been leading and I felt like, okay, she's with me. I kind of want to just see her form. Like I'm a pretty good judge when I see somebody of, you know, are they breaking down? Are they doing really well? Like, and that will dictate in that race. I was like, that will dictate when I'm going to actually go for it. And so I was like, you take the lead. And she's like, no, you take the lead. She's like, I already have a gold medal. Like, it's your turn. And I said, yeah, you're also a mother. And I think that's more impressive. And so it was just kind of a little bit of a banter back and forth. And, you know, I think I watched the replay once, I think. And I remember thinking just like, I can't believe the people behind us didn't catch us. Like, we didn't slow down for that long, but when we slowed down, like we were like not moving. So pretty crazy. But yeah, I think she eventually went a little bit to the front and I was able to gauge a little bit. And then the last lap, I just put in a surge. And I actually thought she was right behind me. You know, the Olympic race, the course in Rio was amazing with fans just being lined everywhere. And I didn't look back and all I could hear was like cheering, and the cheering went on and on and on. So I was like, she must be right there. It's just this really close race. And I remember like seeing the results after the race and just thinking, oh my gosh, I thought she was like a second behind me. So, you know, it made me work for it for sure.
You end up winning by what, 40 seconds or something. And then winning the first ever Olympic gold in triathlon for the U.S. How did that change your world?
It just completely changed my world. You know, it was something, it taught me that if I work really hard, put myself in a position where I'm surrounded by people who support me and help me, that's the way to set yourself up for success. And, you know, we did a big media tour afterwards, and, you know, I'm not like I don't go to the grocery store and get recognized or anything like that. But, if I go show up at a triathlon, I'm surely going to get recognized. And, it's given me a voice, and it's allowed me to just give back to my community. It gave me a lot of confidence as well. But, actually, I'm going to go off on a little tangent now, but,
Yes.
it's given me such a voice. And, with the climate right now, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's made me realize, like, I can help in the triathlon world. I've talked to you, Bob, about this
Yes.
a little bit. But the population of Black athletes is 0.5%, which is just ridiculous. It's so low. And I've been I talked to Max Fennell, who was the first Black professional triathlete. Yep. You said you've been in contact with him as well. And I just learned, I think yesterday, about Vanessa Forster. She created this group called the Diversity Triathlon Movement. And I have a phone call with her later this week, but she started this movement, and she has currently 50 people of color athletes that she's gotten free coaching for, and all these sponsors to get them gear. And I've also been in contact with USA Triathlon and their diversity, equity, and inclusion program. And I've been frustrated because I've been wanting to make this immediate change, and I want to be able to see it. And I'm struggling. And you can talk a little bit, Bob, about what you've done, because I do think the things that you've put on with the athletes racing in like pools and stuff. Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I do think that's a great way to get them into the sport.
Absolutely. And Gwen, it's funny when you sent the email the other day saying, hey, I really want to chat about Black Lives Matter and getting more people of color into our sport. And I'm like, well, and you're probably like, oh my God, this 38-page email comes back. I'm like, Gwen, and really what it comes down to for me is I've always felt that our sport is an equal opportunity abuser, right? We don't care if you're missing a leg, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're black, white, green, it doesn't matter. Our sport is there for you. And it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or if you're a janitor, come on out and play. The thing that I realized a number of years ago is that our sport, when you start talking about $10,000 bikes and you start talking about $800 entry fees and you talk about traveling around the world to go do this Ironman event, that is something that is a deterrent for people getting into our sport. So we've got 8 or 9 of these pool triathlons here in Southern California. And I've been doing them for seriously 20 some years. And you go out and you see a bike that's got cobwebs on it, right? People are pulling out of the garage, and it's a 3-mile run to start. Anybody can run a 5K. Right?
Yep.
You can walk a 5K.
Yep,
and
exactly.
a 10 mile bike, and you can do that on a mountain bike, a bike with cobwebs, doesn't matter what it is, and a 150-yard swim in a pool. And one of the real roadblocks for people, especially people of color and people from the inner city, is swimming.
Yep.
Swimming
they don't have access to pools. They've never learned it in school. They don't know how to swim.
And if you and I go for a bike ride and we get tired, we can stop and walk. If we go for a run and we get tired, we can stop and walk. If we're out in the ocean or in a bay and we get tired while we're swimming, we die. That's a deterrent. That's a problem. So the key is, and we've been doing these swim programs for Challenge Athletes Foundation to get teach people how to swim. And I've reached out to Max and reached out to TriMasters and reached
Chicago,
out to, because what we see in these pool triathlons is immediately, because one of the issues too has been our sport has for a long time been, especially in the longer distance, 80% male, 20% women. When you start dropping the distance and you start adding the pool and adding not needing a great bike, all of a sudden it's 60% women and 40% guys, just like we see in running, because there's not that expensive expense that goes with it, plus the high entry fees, plus all the equipment. So these pool triathlons are invariably higher percentage of women and higher percentage of diversity. So cheaper entry fee, not scared to die, right? Don't need a high-end bike. Plus, for a race director, you're talking Pasadena Triathlon is a 5K around the Rose Bowl, followed by 3 loops on that same 5K. So you're blocking off a total of 5K of road.
Way more manageable, yeah.
And then as a race director, at the finish, it's not like you're building big scaffolding. you're putting a tiny mat at the finish.
Yep.
So it's not expensive to put on. And I tell people all the time, if there's a community pool, there's a community. There's people who live, and it doesn't, and the other thing is you don't need permits down by the beach. You can do these anywhere. I sent you that little video from the Tinsel Tri, and you can see people swimming vertically, right?
Yep.
People have never been in the water before. So the deal is our sport can have a huge impact. And the key, number one, is we have to drown proof people. I think the highest cause of death for children under 10 up in LA is drowning. So we can serve multiple purposes here. One, make our sport more diverse. Two, drown proof athletes, and having someone like yourself on board and Max Fidel on board and all the different folks around the country. We've got a women's tri in Philly, the women's pool tri, 1,650 women this year, right?
Awesome.
People have blow dryers in transition area, like blow drying their hair before putting their helmet on, right? So it's a different gig, but that's our sport can do that. It should be the welcome mat. Our sport should be the welcome mat.
Yeah, and it's all about, we want everyone to have the opportunity to do something that it's going to keep them healthy. If you can exercise, it's a great way to get confidence and learn all these life lessons and have fun and have a community. And, it's gonna, I think I got really discouraged the other week, just how slow moving it is. And, I think, I may not be able to see this change definitely not in a week or a month, or maybe not even in a year. But I think if we all focus on it and work really hard, hopefully there will be change for our children, which, would be incredible to have a different life.
It's funny, LA Tri Club already has a program where they do a swim each year to raise money to teach inner city kids how to swim, right? Once they saw that. So that's there. Tri Masters is there. We've got groups in San Francisco. We got groups in Philly, Chicago, New York. Once the world opens up and we can have something happen, and having a name like yours associated with it and all the other, we can turn this around very quickly. Because we're already doing, from a CEF perspective, we're already doing swim clinics. We're already working at these pools. So to be able to expand that and have not just challenged athletes there. And actually what I have found is when able-bodied kids come out and think they can't do something, and they see a kid missing a leg or a kid who's wheelchair bound getting in the water and swimming, it makes them understand they can do it.
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins. So the transition you go from winning a golden triathlon to becoming a mom, the Stanley, to going, you know what, I'm going to go for another Olympics, but I want to do it in the marathon. Was part of that, I always look at the sport of triathlon, it's a lot of time out of the house, right? You go on a bike ride for 3 hours. As a mom, was that one of the reasons? It's just, I got to do something that takes a little less time and maybe a little less dangerous?
I was gonna for sure say no, but then when you said a little bit less dangerous, I mean, part of it is that I did not like the fear I had on the bike, and having to overcome that mental fear every single day was very draining. The time aspect of it had nothing to do with the choice. And actually with running, you beat your body down so much that you have to have body work all the time. And I actually think like the amount of hours I'm not in the house is pretty equivalent to my triathlon training days. But yeah, I mean, for me, I actually, out of college, I wanted to run, and I was just told I wasn't good enough. And then after triathlon, I had, these PRs in a 10K, and I remember I would race the Sydney, the Australia National Champs, 10K road champs every year, and I would do pretty well, and I was getting PRs, and I felt like I kept improving, and so, I called Jerry, the coach of Bowerman Track Club. He was actually the men's coach at Wisconsin when I was running there, so he knew who I was. We're actually both from Waukesha. And, I just kind of said, like, this is what I want to do. And I called a bunch of other coaches as well. A lot of them said, you're crazy. But, for me, I knew that I hadn't reached my potential in running, and I still know I haven't. And so I just kind of want to see where I'm at. And, the marathon dream, I was very bold about saying what I wanted to do, and I failed this go around. And I think it's good as well for, just for kids to be able to see, like, it's good to put out my big crazy goal, but it's also important that you make modifications along the way if something happens. And I actually had heel surgery and I had Stanley, and so like the time was running out and it just wasn't going to happen. So I'm actually training for the track right now, 5K, 10K, which has been a complete turnaround. It's crazy. It's just we have pure speed days, and those are the days that I struggle the most for sure on my team. But it's also fun because every time we have those, I get like a new PR in the 400 meters or something, and it's just kind of fun and different. And me, I feel like I'm on the best team in the world, and I have these ladies, and I see what they do on a daily basis, and I know that keeping up with them in practice is going to pay off long term.
Back in the day when you were training swim, bike, run, your running kept getting better. I remember back in the day talking to Bobby McGee and goes, Gwen's running faster for 5K and 10K now doing swim, bike, run than she did when she was just running. Have you incorporated swim in like indoor cycling to continue to do that? Because it's when you become just a straight runner, sometimes injuries just pile up.
Yeah. Well, like, earlier I said I didn't want to bike because of the fear for it. So yeah, I incorporated a lot of Zwift riding, which has been amazing.
Yes.
A lot of races on Zwift, which get my heart rate up and make it a workout, but make it fun. And that's something that I've really enjoyed. And to be honest, I haven't been swimming. I did swim when I was injured, but I haven't been swimming recently. And I actually think that's been a little bit better for me just because of the way I'm built. I tend to hunch over a lot and my shoulders tend to get tight. And without the swimming, I've been able to actually run with more relaxed shoulders. So just knowing my limits on that have been pretty good. So yeah.
Very cool. So Gwen, moving forward, it's all 5K, 10K. So now you are this fast twitch person, right? That transition has that been hard?
Yeah. If you talk to my teammates, I wouldn't think no one would say 10K is fast twitch, but
right. Yeah. But how has that been in terms of your body handling this load of speed?
Actually, really good. Like injury wise, I've been really healthy, knock on some wood.
Yeah.
But it's been really great to see the progress and to go from just hanging on the back of my group to leading, to helping them out, to being in some sets the last one to be standing and other people, struggling. And so to see that variation is something that's been really encouraging for me. And one of the reasons I wanted to make the switch to running was because I felt like I had reached my potential in triathlon. And so to be able to run and to be able to see improvement and to be able to still work on things and know that there's more in me is something that it just gives me a lot of joy and makes me so happy to just get out there and train.
Obviously, nobody wanted COVID to hit, but having that extra year going for 2021, has that actually been a positive for you, giving you more time?
Yeah, I think it has, especially as the months go on. We did a altitude stint this year in Park City. Pat and me and Stanley, we drove up, so we're following COVID instructions, trying to be very cautious. And but we did this altitude training stint, and then we came back down, and we've actually been doing some races here in Portland, just our group. And I did the race right out of altitude, which is what I would have done going into the Olympic trials. And I felt awful. And this was now the third race where I've done an altitude, come down, race right away. And 90% of my team does that, where they go to altitude, come down, race right away. And that's when they feel their best. But there's me and one or two others who have realized we don't feel our best doing that. And so for me, just that alone, like realizing that this year, like I may need some more time coming down from altitude to race. That was a huge benefit. Like if I would have raced the Olympic trials, I would have been game over. And just knowing that if I can come down now a little bit earlier, I'll be at my best. And so that's been, a game changer for me. And, I've also, this year, I feel like is the first year I've been able to like get a lot out of my training. And so every time you have good training stints, it builds. And like next year I'll be at a new starting place. And so for me, I think it's exciting. Yeah, you know, having had a baby and then surgery, just having an extra year is probably good.
I remember with the Ironman guys, when Mark Allen, those guys would be training in Colorado, they would come down 3 weeks before the race. They
Yep.
felt that their body needed to recover from the altitude, and they would be ready. And actually, it was pretty funny because back in the day, Ironman went on the full moon, and if it was the end of October, it meant they were in Boulder till early October when sometimes there's snow on the ground. And
Yeah.
they're like, we got to get out of here. But that's sort of been the measure, has always been like a couple weeks rather than right before. I think is, for some people it works, but
Yep.
maybe for you, you need a little more time.
Yeah.
Love it. Hey, Gwen, thank you so much for taking so much time. It's been way too long. It's always fun to catch up with you. And with Stanley turning 3, he's got to be close to 3, right?
That's right. Yeah. Next month he's turning 3. So it'll be kind of fun because, you know, I feel like for his second birthday, he didn't really understand what was going on. And so now he knows what a birthday is. And I keep asking him what he wants. And it's so cute. Bless his heart. He wants a balloon.
You can afford that. Come on now.
I know. I'm like, do you want a toy monster truck? Do you want, you know, he's really into The Incredibles and he likes Frozone. Yeah. And he also really wants like a little ukulele, like a guitar. And so I'll like suggest those things. He goes, no, mommy, I want a balloon. It's just so cute.
I love that. Gwen, always such a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking so much time. And hopefully we can work on a little pool try thing together, right?
I would love that. Yes. Let's keep in touch about that. Awesome.
Olympic gold medalist Gwen Jorgensen has been our guest. We're brought to you by the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, VeloFix, Normatec, Form Swim Goggles, UCAN, our Challenge Athletes Foundation, now in 27th year. We've raised $123 million, sent out 30,000 grants for 103 different sports and 73 different countries, all 50 states and Puerto Rico. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Gwen, you are the best. Thanks so much for taking so much time.
Bye.
Bye.